All right, y'all, I'm very excited for today's episode and today's guest. We are going a little bit off the grid. We're headed into my past, to be 100% honest with you. Today on the show, I'm so excited to welcome Savannah. And Savannah, I have known you for, it feels like 100 years, but here, your last name, Vilaubi, is that correct?
Log. Uh-huh.
Is that
Yeah,
what it is?
I think visually it's kind of awkward, so you crushed it. That was perfect.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, you guys, for Savannah to be here today. I sent her a message on Instagram just a little while ago, and I was like, girlfriend, I would love for you to be on the podcast. So, my kind of give the audience a 2 second of how we actually met. How we met was Savannah absolutely slaughtered my ass in a golf tournament. The very first time I ever met her, we were in the final round. I was leading. I choked so hard. She won. But from that day forward, I had so much respect for how you handled yourself. And now to be able to watch your career, it's been so nice. I'm like, when was that? That was like 5 or 6 years ago, at least.
Girl, let me do you one better. That was 2016.
What? Oh my God. How am I that old?
It's crazy, right? Like time absolutely flies. But yeah, it was 2016 at the Texas State Open, and that was the first big state open that I had played in. And it's like, oh my gosh, Christina, look here, she shot 66. I'm like, how does that even happen? I was just like in awe. And then I get paired with you the last day, and you're like, I don't really golf too much anymore. I just kind of come out of retirement every once in a while. I'm like, must be nice to shoot 66 trunk slam. I'm like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and then I proceeded. I don't even know if I broke 80 the second day or the third day, guys. It was like one of those choke show moments. It was like I did not have the mindset then. I was starting to get into it. I was starting to achieve what I have today when it comes to that, but I put so much pressure on myself for that event because I had never won as a professional. And then I had my opportunity when I was kind of, being done with golf 8 years ago or whatever it was. And it was very unfortunate, but I learned a lot of great lessons that day, and you were a big part of it. And so, what a full circle moment to now have you, as successful as you've been. Give everyone, obviously, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone how fabulous and how successful you really are.
sure. Well, I don't know about the fabulous and successful, but it's been a roller coaster since turning pro. So I graduated from UC Riverside in 2015. I'm a California native, now living in St. George, Utah, and I played a lot of state opens, as Christina described here. Starting in 2016, got on the Epson tour, which was then Symetra in 2017, and have been playing professionally since then. So I have played on the LPGA in 2022. I've done the European tour, a ton of different mini tours that I'm sure you've never heard of, and predominantly now on the Epson tour. And I have a Q Series in December to qualify for the LPGA, which I'm very excited to get my status back. But it has been a roller coaster of a career. I'm sure any professional golfer will attest to that. But yeah, since 2016, and I do want to give you credit here because I had never been paired with someone who had the composure that you did during that round. And obviously, like, I know it's always hard to back up a really solid round, right, the next day. And your composure and your grace, and you had fun that whole day, and you weren't playing well, and you were still very, very kind to me, and we talked the entire time. So I do want to acknowledge you for that. And I know, I mean, you said it was kind of in the beginning of your career and what you built here, but it showed very, very early on just how composed and how, I guess, the authority that you had over your mental approach. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge you for that. But that's a little bit about me. Turned pro in 2015, 16, and here we are 1,000 tours later.
1,000 tours later, we're still doing it. And I know, and I think one of the reasons why Savannah and I stayed in touch along that way is just because obviously, like, just witnessing her that day, her first win, you were so young at the time. Your dad was caddying for you at the time, right?
Yes, uh-huh, he
Is he
was.
still caddy for you?
Not anymore. He more
No.
expect the last time he caddied for me, I think was like 2021 or something.
Okay.
It was because that was when like the world shut down because of COVID. And so my dad and I drove from California to Texas for some WAPT events. They were the only tour that was going on during that summer. And so he did caddy for me for some of those events.
Oh my gosh, so crazy. But I remember you, and I just remember how well you played, and your dad being your caddy, and I've followed you along. And I think one of the reasons why I still to this day have followed you, there was a season I think that like I didn't follow you as much, but one of the reasons why I started following you again is because you really started showing more of yourself, and you really started showing more of your faith. And I remember you had actually gotten on a call with me. um, this was probably, and tell me if this feels true, probably at one of your lowest times on golf, because I think most people have no clue how absolutely difficult it is to do this journey. And I commend you for continuing on after 8 years. The adversity that you have had, every professional has had. I think most people just think that you're just living this amazing life, making millions of dollars, traveling the world. And that is all just bullshit, let me tell you.
Yeah. It wasn't in the green until just a couple years ago. It's like, you're your own business, and it takes a lot of time, money, and effort to get off the ground, and I think I was kind of a late bloomer, and anyway, but I'm really grateful for it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of tell us, so you really came out of the gates pretty hot back in what, 2016? You were playing really well. You went to tour school. Kind of give us a little bit of that journey, because I think no matter anyone who's listening to this, whether they've been in athletics or business or life in general, I think anyone can put themselves in the story. So kind of give us like a 411 of the last couple of years, especially in your early years of golf.
Well, in the early years of golf, winning was easy, and I say that without being cocky. I just happened to fall into tournament wins, and I was playing kind of freewheeling it, and wasn't so wrapped up in like the technical side of things. I just played a tournament, and I figured that if I didn't win it, I was going to be in the top three. And that became my mentality and kind of the brand that I played golf with. And so golf was really fun, and it was easy. And it's kind of scary to say that, but because I had that approach and that experience and that success so early on, I was not taking note of what was working. And I came out of the gates really hot, but I did not have the habits that allowed me to continue that hot streak. And so when I got to the Epson tour, everybody is good there. I did not have the practice habits to support strong golf. And so once you're at that next level and the next level, the margin for error gets so small, and I just did not have the game that stood up to the pressure of it. And so,
I don't mean to cut you off, but can you talk about that? Because I want people to hear this. I think this is brilliant. You can put this into life. You can put this into fitness, business, or golf. So talk about specifically, because I think people are hearing this, but they don't perhaps know what you mean. I feel like I do, but I'd love for you to kind of really elaborate on the practiced habits that you were talking about.
okay, so for example, I wouldn't practice leading up to, like a cactus tour event or, a state open or whatever. I wouldn't practice as hard, and I would come out with a win. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I don't have to practice. The worst thing that could happen to you is a good result doing the bad thing to get there. And that is exactly what happened. And so now my practice habits look different. And after that, 2016 to 18 or 17, my practice habits needed to change, or my goal needed to change, right? So now it's like I make sure that my short game is tight. I make sure that my wedges are accurate, my carry distances. I'm confident in my mechanics. You're practicing putting, and so you don't have to wonder why you're not making the 4-footers. It's like, well, do you practice those? It's like, well, I guess not. So I just had to be on top and be responsible for my what I chose as a profession, and so it was really fun, but also detrimental that I had as early success as I did. And at the time I was with a lot of really fun people who were also in the golf industry, not playing professionally, but they made golf really fun. And no matter how I did in a tournament, they were there to like be hoorah and cheerleaders for me, but they also were not holding me accountable to my craft and what effort needed to go into it to sustain me. And so in 2018, I hit my rock bottom with golf. I lost my Epson tour status. I was not taking like the fitness and health very seriously. And, um, just thought that this golf thing was going to continue to be easy, and it wasn't. So I took about a month off after advancing from stage 1 to stage 2 in qualifying, in Epson Tour qualifying, and had to reassess. I'm like, is golf what I want to do? And deep down, although like everything around me said no, deep down, I was like, girl, you have some untapped potential here. You know that this is not it. You know that you can spend more hours on the golf course. You can work on your diet. You can work on your fitness. And so I worked with my brother. I just happened to look up European Tour School, and the entry deadline was open for another 3 days. I called my dad, called my sponsor at the time, like, hey, can we get the team together and send me to, it was Cambodia. That was the last qualifying site.
Oh
That was
my God.
in tour school. And so I got the green light from everybody. I worked with my brother, who I absolutely adore and look up to. He's wise beyond his years, and he helped train me to get ready for European Tour School. And so like 3 weeks later, so after not touching a club for a month, I'm like cramming with my brother, with my dad, with my coaches, and we got ready for 3 weeks to go to Cambodia. My dad caddied for me there, and we made it to the second stage of qualifying. And after a big long playoff, I ended up getting my European Tour status that way. And so I'm like, you know what? This is the first taste of success that I have had following a recipe that should get me there. This was actually hard practice, deep, like journaling on what worked and what didn't, and building momentum. Like, I kept my word to myself, and my brother really, really held my hand during that time. But I actually got to see like the fruits of my labor pay off. And then that's kind of what got my habits in a better position to sustain me for ultimately what ended up turning into, full Epson season, and getting to the final stage of Q school at the end of that next year, and then getting my LPGA status, and now having 2 wins on the Epson tour. It's been
Awesome. No, I think that that's so important, because I think that like it would have been so easy for you to just say that like, this isn't what I want to do anymore.
Yeah, no one likes to lose. No one likes to lose and not be content, not be in contention, and just not make 1,000 cuts in a row. It's, no one wants that. But I also didn't want to change my practice habits more than I didn't want to lose, And so it doesn't make sense looking back at it. I'm like, girl, you wasted so much time. It feels like I let, 3 years go by, that set me back. And I am grateful, absolutely grateful for where I am now. And I know that I'm meant to be here. But I am 31, and it feels like I'm a relic on the Epson tour. It's like every year, just
Oh, you think you're a relic.
no matter what, like talent just keeps getting younger. And anyway, so that is the only, like, if I were to have regrets in my career, that would be it. Like just not having the serious approach to my career sooner, just because the success came early and I just wasn't, I don't know, I just lacked the awareness.
What was it, do you think? Like, it was just the lack of awareness, or was the fact that you just were winning, and so you're like, okay, I don't even need to practice? Was it people that you were hanging around? Like, what were a few of you think the determining factors? Because I think that's helpful for someone to kind of be able to see, and perhaps they can't see it in themselves in a blind spot. And now you looking back 6 or 8 years ago.
Yes, a lot of that I think had to do with the crowd that I was surrounding myself with. And they were all very, very dear friends, but they were all kind of like yes men type of deal. And they loved me and they cared about me, but it was all like soft love. It wasn't like that, that necessary criticism. It wasn't the tough love that says like, hey, you need to like, stop drinking after a round and like go practice. And rather, we're talking about like really fun golf outings in a bunch of different places. And there was never the requirement to practice or take what I did seriously. I was better than the people that I was hanging out with. And so sure, it gives you this inflated confidence, but compared to what? And so, yeah, there was really no accountability because it wasn't necessary. But I mean, if I were hanging around fewer players and people who were better than me, I'm sure I would have realized that sooner on, but I also wasn't pursuing those types of relationships. And so I'd encourage anybody to kind of look around your circle. And yes, it's really good to have this, big fish in a little pond type of feeling. But once you're out in the real world, or once you take whatever you're doing seriously, and for golf, like for women's golf, it can be kind of a niche genre, I guess. And people around you don't know a lot about it. And so if you're the best golfer they know, you're never going to feel like you can do any wrong. And so once I got out into just a bigger pool of golfers and bigger tours and higher talent, like I struggled. So that's when the awakening happened. But yeah, for anybody out there wondering like, oh, why me? Why am I stunted? It's like, well, look around at the people you're hanging out with. Are they requiring more of you than you can require of yourself? Are they going to have your blind spot? Are they going to recognize when you are not maximizing your talent and living up to your potential? And so I think that's, for me, that had a lot to do with it. And it's not to like, and I don't want to say that to say, oh, it wasn't my fault, no one told me any better. It's like, deep down, like you have that little voice that is totally, you have that little self that is unfulfilled who knows it, but the voices around you are louder in that moment. So I would encourage anyone to see, like, what voice are you listening to right now? Are you ignoring the one that tells you need to get up in the morning, you need to put down the drink, you need to do this to take care of business? Or are you listening to the easy ones that make you feel good around you?
Yeah, thank you for that, because I think it's so important. I've always been a big, firm believer of, you are who you surround yourself with. And there is that fun time where it is fun to be the big person. It is fun to be the cool kid. It is fun to have everyone praise you. But if you really are looking for that level of success, you have to, people always dogged Jordan and Kobe, and they said they were mean and he was just kind of evil to people. But also too, that's the reason why he was so great. I know not everyone on the planet strives to have that greatness, but if you do want to listen to that tiny voice within inside of yourself that knows that there's something greater for you and you want to be that next level, whether it be an athlete, a business person, a mother, whatever it is, you have to start listening to that tiny voice inside of yourself instead of everyone around you. So you made that, you came to that kind of, I always call it like the come to Jesus moment. You had that kind of come to Jesus moment where you're like, all right, I actually know deep within inside of myself, I do want to play golf. I do know that I have this talent. I do know that I actually want to work harder. So this was like a 2018 type of thing.
Yes, end of 2018.
End of
Mhm.
2018. So what really changed for you at the end of 2018? You talk about your brother, new routines.
Yeah, so that was it. And having the success after I had the practice habits involved in like my system, like I had my team of people who were holding me accountable. Yeah, after that, I was like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like. And so played the next season halfway on the European tour until I shuffled into some tournaments on the Epson tour. So played a few of those, made a couple cuts for the first time. And I should also include that my first season on the Epson tour, I made 3 cuts and played all but 1 tournament that year. So I played every single event and sprinkled in some state opens, made 3 cuts. So that didn't feel very good. And I was exhausted by the end of it. So in 2019, when I had my status back, playing on the European tour was super, super helpful because those felt like global events, like LPGA run events. And so once I was on those bigger stages, going back to the Epson tour, I had this newly found confidence, and so I was able to make some cuts. Went to Q school again that year, and then proceeded to made it to the final stage and got my full Epson status that way. And so over over the course of a year, I guess, of having my practice habits and my just daily disciplines tested and then hold up under pressure for these tournaments and all that. I guess just having that pattern of success just set me in motion. And then that became kind of the baseline. There was no more like, okay, don't practice. And yes, like, let's go out and have like a fun drunk round of golf instead of doing something productive. It's like, and obviously like having a non-competitive round of golf, you know, if you're with friends or if I'm with my husband and like having a couple beers, it's such a luxury. And so I still will do that, but it does not take precedence over what I know needs to be done. Um, and so I guess really that was just the phase of it, having the success after the habits were in place in 2018 and 19, and even in 2020 on our abridged COVID season. I mean, that was what I needed. I also got in touch with the sports psychologist that I work now. So it's a team of these two guys, Bo Watson and Shannon Chusky. They run the School of Lifetime Low Rounds, and I got connected with them in 2020. They're incredibly faith-filled, and at that time, I was more in like I was just coming off of 75 hard, and I was all about Joe Dispenza and this kind of spiritual chapter, I guess. It wasn't Jesus rooted, but I was learning like, oh, this is the power of manifestation. And so you feel like you have all this power. And so when I met Bo and Shannon, they were giving me a lot of instruction and a lot of guidance that was like Bible based and more than just like the spiritual kind of base. And for me, that made such a humongous difference. And that was when I really learned not to tie in like who I was with what I did. And so now we have this like chapter of identity that took place starting in 2020. And yeah, when I invited God into everything that I did, that's when golf really, really took off too. And so after a couple of years of working with them, after a year and a half of working with them, I got onto the LPGA. And the LPGA in itself, that was a whole brand new set of challenges and learning curves that I can get into. But yeah, it just I guess what I learned after 2018 is when you do just the next right thing, that's all. Like you can't predict like the ripple effect that can come from, you know, deciding to like say yes to the, you know, 100 extra putts at a practice or saying yes to the workout. And those are cliche examples maybe, but it really is that simple. Like the cliches for hard work really hold true. And so when you do the next right thing, you can be proud of yourself. And for me, like the results followed.
Oh my gosh, I'm just obsessed with all of that. And I think that I'm really obsessed with the fact that you decided to look for some sort of like, you know, mindset type of help or some sort of guru in the golf and in the golf world. And the fact that they were Christian based, I think, you know, I know that we don't know each other a ton, but do you know who Justin Pointer is?
Uh,
He's out of Dallas. He used to be a Jim McClain guy 100 years ago, but Justin's one of my best friends. And I always say that he like saved me. You know, I definitely never say that he was my golf coach because really he wasn't because
I
I'm not a very good golfer, so I never want to put that on him. But he was, you know, we had met at when I was doing some corporate stuff, doing back at the golf show, the PGA show in Orlando. And that's how we had met. And then we started kind of hanging out. And he really like he lived in Dallas, so I'd go over there for a lesson or whatever. But that's really when he started in like really like implanting like the confidence seeds into me and the faith-based seeds into me.
yeah.
And like he did it in such an exceptional way. And he's been on this podcast before. And like, I mean, I've always said he's a person who pretty much saved my life in so many regards.
Yeah.
And I just think that people so underlook the fact of having one person who helps you build that internal confidence inside of you that is faith-based. Like it'll 100% like saved my life, no question about it. And it sounds like it made a world of difference in your life and career.
Yeah, it absolutely did. Yeah, simply put, I am not, I just like would not be here today if it wasn't for learning the word and learning more about God and how to actually make him a part of your life and not just, you know, someone you talk to before bed. You know, it's like
Exactly.
I want him in every single piece of my life, every part of my day. You know, the successes, the failures across the course of a golf season, a golf career. And yeah, I'd be nothing without him. And yeah, I would invite anybody to just plug into the word. And don't wait till you're exhausted. Don't wait until you're beat down and have nowhere else to turn. Like, obviously God is still going to take you as you are, but it is so much more fun. And I have just, life has been so much more rich, since including him in literally everything that I do.
Did you grow up in a faith-filled family?
Yes.
Oh,
So,
see, I didn't. I had no clue. Yeah.
okay. We grew up Catholic, and yeah, we always went to church and loved the community of people that we had in the Catholic Church. And once I learned more about the Bible and about Jesus in the Bible, I was like, man, why have I never opened the Bible for a study before? Like, so church was the focus of my Catholic upbringing, and we said our prayers, and my family were very, very faith filled. And it wasn't until actually opening the Bible for myself and not just going to church and leaving it on the priest to, feed me spiritually. It wasn't until just opening it for myself and like taking time in devotion, that I really saw a difference made in my life. I didn't realize how spiritually disconnected I was, and I was leaving my spiritual growth up to someone else, and I wasn't doing my own homework. And so working with Bo Watson and Shannon Chesky, they're not just my sports psychologists, they are my spiritual mentors now. Yeah, it wasn't until I opened it for myself that it really made a difference. And now I don't have a life without God. Like, I couldn't imagine one without him. And it's so easy, it's like my Bible's just always in arm's reach. And anytime I'm going through a season, especially before tournaments and stuff, I make sure that like my cup is full spiritually, because golf can just beat you down. Like, I know this. And yeah, when you're on the road for weeks in a row and you're like away from family or away from my husband and away from like the familiar, it's like I need God in my life, and yeah, so it's been a huge game changer, like literally a game changer. I pray all the time on the golf course too, and like whether I'm giving thanks or asking help making a putt, it's like he's always there, and it's been a game changer just having the Bible with me.
Yeah, people always say, I'm like, oh no, I don't really go to in the building of church very often, but like God and I talk like all day, bloody every day. We cut like people always say like you cuss him. I'm like, God knows I cuss. He still freaking loves me. Like, what are we doing here? Like, fuck. I say God and fuck. Like, yes, I know I'm not traditional, but like God and I are legit. We are tight. Talk to him all damn day. Good things, bad things, comments, concerns. It's just a relationship. I'm definitely not a religious person by any means, but I feel like I'm a faith-based person, and like we're good. Something that you said that I had said so many times before, and I think a lot of people now tune in, whether you're an athlete, a business person, you're just a human being. You talked about differentiating yourself between what you did and who you are. For me, I can probably say there's probably about 3 or 4 things that are just like massive moments in my life. And for me, it was really breaking that like who I am and what I do. And I know a lot of people listening to this tie what they do, what they look like, how much money they make, maybe their last name, their title at their business. There's so much association that we all have between who we are and what we do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like how did that really help you when you were able to go, I'm a person of God, and I'm a golfer, and they're very different.
Yeah. And even still, I mean, just recently and at different points in the season, like who we are and what we do, like can become a near eclipse. Obviously there's going to be overlap because what you are skilled in, God has given to you. So that's a gift that I want to honor. And sometimes I get a little like, okay, God, I know you gave me this gift, but why am I struggling so hard? Why do I hate what I do right now? Because there are times in the golf season that get really difficult, and you might be missing a couple cuts in a row. I've missed several cuts this year by one shot, and it hurts right here, but there are times where I'm like, God, why did you let that happen? And I love that question, because I get feedback almost immediately from the Holy Spirit. It's like, well, what did you do this week? Did you check in with me? Did you wait until the last minute to go to me with something? And what was your sleep like, and all this stuff. You can have like the physical, I guess, adjustments that you could have made earlier in the week. Um, but once I was able to surrender, and sometimes I'm better at it than others, but once I was able to surrender, like, hey, I am not just a golfer. Golf is what I do. It is an opportunity. It is a gift that is God given. And it is my way of bringing about God's kingdom. I think there is like a mosquito or something. Um, but once I was able to separate and say like, hey, first, like, let's open the word and just fill your cup on how you are. Like, I am a daughter of God. And, I give thanks that I am able to speak on his name just in my day to day. As long as I keep that the focus, things don't get too far out of line. But it is something that I have to constantly renew. And I think maybe I don't know if it can't just be my own experience, but I was mistaken in thinking that like the first time I acknowledged, like, I'm a daughter of God. I am put here on this earth to fulfill his kingdom and bring about his kingdom and love others in the image of Christ. I thought once I accepted that, I really wouldn't have to work hard on as a golfer, but I was like, oh, wait, but here's a test thrown at me to see if I really meant what I said when I promised that I wasn't just a golfer. Because it's like what you do is tied into it's your livelihood. Like, money is important on earth, it's such a vital part of just existing. And so when I don't play good golf, I don't make money. It's like, okay, God, what are you going to do here? But it's like, hey, this is a reminder, like, I am planting seeds right now. And this might feel a little bit like a valley. This might feel like darkness, but maybe that's a call for you to turn to me even more. God just wants more of us. And I truly believe that when we have these challenges in our life, that is his way of asking us to turn to him, or getting us to turn to him. But it is something that, like, acknowledging that I am first a child of God outside of a golfer, it's almost like I guess it is perishable, like a perishable skill. I would liken it to a perishable skill. So you have to renew yourself in that. And for me, when I started traveling with the Bible, like, that is how I was able to sustain myself. But if golf is what I do every day, like, your job is what you do every day, you have to just make sure that there's a balance in, I guess, your work and faith relationship. So it's only when golf gets a little too out of whack and it starts tipping the scale, that's when my wheels start turning and I start doubting my ability. And it's the craziest thing, and it sounds very contradictory, but the more you care about something, I truly believe, the more like the enemy will use that against you. God is giving you a gift to promote you in his kingdom and to promote his kingdom. And the enemy wants to use that against you. And it is easy to get wrapped up in the results of what you do and call that like, oh, these are the fruits of my labor. If I don't have these fruits to show, then I'm not good. That is totally a trick of the enemy. And it's just a season that's going to fortify you for later on. And so, the more I'm in the word, I've realized the more that I'm able to kind of zoom out and see God working. Because when you're in it and you're missing cuts and all this, like, it can get pretty dark. I will say that.
Absolutely. But I also think too that you're bringing I mean, is there a lot of women on tour that are so, like, I mean, obviously go follow. What is your social media? It's your name, or is there
Yeah.
an underscore?
Savannah Vilaubi, just one.
Savannah Vilaubi. Go follow her. Your videos are so cute. I love you do such a great job on social media, but you also have done a lot. I love your ones where you're sitting in front of the Bible and you're just like, all right, girl, here, I'm going to tell you how it is. I love those ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that's the thing, it's like everybody makes you believe that you have to be so polished and so well versed in faith and,
Oh, hell no.
been like a Christian for 20 years before you can even speak on something. I'm like, no, the Holy Spirit is here to give revelation as you seek it, and I've been so excited about things that I've stumbled upon in the Bible that I didn't even hear that, or at least didn't land when I was going to church. It's not until like you do some legwork that you realize like the craziest thing. And the Bible knows humanity so well. It paints humanity so well, and we don't change. And so you get all of these, it feels like these new lessons that have been around for thousands of years, but when I read something like that, I'm like, I want to make this simple so that people want to open the book for themselves. Because before, I was never one to read something, interpret it, and then be able to speak on it. It's like, oh, let me try to, memorize scripture, or, I just feel good because I opened the Bible. It's like, no, let me try to read this like a book that I am so caught up in, and I'm able to see narrative better rather than just reading words in like this pious way. To your point, it is a relationship, and God wants to teach you about him by opening his word. Like, it is here for us to access at any time. And so I get really excited when I read some things. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to share this. And it is crazy how many people have reached out with such positivity and such support when it comes to things that are faith-based on social media. Because I've not seen that. And I think people get shy to speak on their faith. It might seem kind of soft, or maybe like they're ill-equipped to talk about it, but that's not the case. Like, you open this and you see a lesson, God wants you to share that. Yes, your relationship with God is intimate, but it's not private. We are absolutely called to share a message with other people and grow like God's church. And so it's just been really fun for me. And of course, like, hearing the feedback from other people, one has been surprising. I'm like, has everyone always loved God, but just like in the closet, it's like, where has this relationship been? And then I look at myself, I'm like, well, I'm like, where has my relationship, like public relationship with God been? And so I'm like, oh, here it is. Okay. I get it now. Thank you for this. So it's just been so fun for me.
Do you find that there's a lot of people on the LPGA that are like, I know that there's a couple girls that I can think of. I obviously don't keep tabs on the tour very much anymore, but has that been something that like kind of has set you apart, or do you feel like a lot of people do actually do that?
There are so many people who are faith-based on tour. It is
good.
But it just takes starting that conversation with someone.
Correct. That's why I'm so happy that we're talking about this, because I have had more DMs over the last however many years, 7 years. People are like, literally, you say God and you say fuck. And I know that sounds so kind of messed up, but also I think that, and I say it's one of my greatest blessings in life is that people have at least become open to a relationship with God and just kind of like dipping their toe in it, because I'm like, yep, talk to him all day, every day, like good relationship. We are legit. And yeah, I'm far from perfect, and I don't know everything that you know, and I don't know, everything there is to know, but absolutely 100%, I can't live life without it.
Oh, 100% agree. And when you bring that up to somebody, when I brought that up to other girls on the tour, everyone chimes in with their own story. I'm like, yes, like there's testimonies everywhere, especially in the golf world, because it gets kind of crazy. But we also have our fellowship that meets on the Epsom tour. It has their fellowship. Chris Stevens is the woman who runs all of this for us and gets us all together. And there are players that are more active than others. I don't claim to go to every single group that we have. But the fact that they have that available to players is amazing. And so we'll read scripture, we match it with a faith-based book. And you just kind of share and have questions every week that help connect you with the word and connect you with other people. And it is a place where you can kind of like, it's almost catharsis. It's like you meet up with other faith-based people and you're like, hey, are you going through a tough time right now too? Or is like, are you just cool with like missing cuts also? Like,
is this hard for you, or am I the only one?
Exactly. And so you have this place, and when you know that you have God in common, it's so easy to just exist there, So I'm super grateful for what Chris Stevens has done and like the fellowship on both tours.
Oh, awesome. So tell us your first year on the LPGA tour. What is something that like totally like just kind of took you for a ride? What was like the best part, the worst part, and what did you never expect?
So the best part I would say would be playing the Dow with Lauren Coughlin. Hunter, my husband, caddied for me there. We had the best time. It was the partner shootout. So it was my first time playing alternate shot, and that was super fun. So I never played golf with a partner before in a formal setting. And so to make it the Dow, and I had the best Lauren, if you're listening to this, I love you.
You
And
know what? I swear to you, I played with her. Like, how old is she?
I think she's, let's see, I'm 31. She's 32.
You know what? I almost am positive I played with her maybe at the Tennessee Open like 100 years ago. Like again, I am so old. I'm so out of this, but I promise you, I think I did. I'm gonna look it up after this. But Lauren, if you're listening to this, I think I played golf with you, and I think I remember her being so nice.
Yeah, she is like the best ball striker I've ever seen. Like the sharpest irons. We called her Snipes.
Oh wow.
So she definitely had my back on alternate shot. I almost screwed the pooch for us on that one, but it was my best finish. So we finished in.
Oh.
It was such a blast. I got to meet Annika Sorenstam, and it was so fun. Like the environment of that tournament, it's just electric, right? It is. It's a great time. So that was my favorite memory on my rookie season out there. The worst part was towards the end when you knew you have to play well in order to avoid going back to Q school, in order to keep your status and all that. And I'll just say, like, I didn't end up signing up for Q school because I didn't think that I would have to go back to second stage. And I'm like, you know what, we got 6 events left of the season, or until like that cutoff date. I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. I trusted in my ability to golf, and I'm like, I think I can close out the season. And I didn't. And I left that season with 0 LPGA status. I got relegated to the Epson Tour in worse status than I had ever had since joining the Epson Tour. And I was looking at that in the face at the end of 2022 and wondering, like, okay, I really need to look inward and look up and say, like, am I done golfing? That felt like the second rock bottom. And obviously it's not rock bottom. I've just played a season on LPGA. It's not like I have
But
no.
also too, I want you to acknowledge that, because I feel like, we all compare. We always say that, well, it's not as bad as this person. It's not as that bad as this person. At that moment, that was really, really, really shitty for you.
Awful. And I remember after we played Satakoy, that was the last tournament that I was going to get into that could make a difference. And I needed to make the cut there, and I didn't. And after I signed my scorecard, I am just like holding back tears, go to the locker room and just kind of just bawl. And I'm like, okay, well, that's it. That might be it for golf. I can't go back to Q school to get any sort of status back. Do I want to play? Like, it was such a stressful year, really fun. And getting to play on a stage that big is just incredible. Like, the way they treat the players is fantastic. You have player dining starting on Monday morning, and you don't have to leave. Like, you show up there with your caddy. They treat the caddies very well. And my husband caddied for me, for a good chunk of the season, about halfway through. And you get to the golf course, you eat, you practice, you eat, you practice, and it's so productive and it's so much fun. And I crave to be back there. And when that was over, I'm like, I think I just like really, really failed. Like, I think this was it. And it was so stressful at the end. And that was one of the seasons where what I did and who I was like in a full eclipse. And I'm like, God, I don't care what you have to say. I'm a bad golfer. Like, I totally botched my rookie season on the LPGA. My goal was to not have to go back. My goal was to make $1 million on the LPGA in my rookie season. So I had all of these things written out, and I think I maybe fulfilled 2 of them. And I was embarrassed. Like, I'm talking to God, even embarrassed, like tail between my legs. And I'm like, this is it. Like, I hate the way I feel more than I liked the good times this year. And I think I'm okay with quitting. But I gave it a minute, and I'm like, let me sleep on this for a couple days. Then that stupid little spark, that like tiny itty bitty spark deep down was like, we're not done. I'm like, don't. I was totally fine with quitting. Like, don't you dare come in here and light this little fire in me. Like, I can't take it anymore, And but I go back to the Epson Tour, start my season there. And I remember my first tournament back, I was embarrassed to be there. It's like, I know what it felt like to claw my way through Q school just to get status on Epson Tour way back when. But now that I got relegated there, I felt so much shame. I felt so embarrassed because I couldn't keep my status. And that was a battle in itself. And I know that that was a tactic of the enemy to turn me away from golf. I won a tournament, my very first tournament, a couple months into the season.
Wow.
And it was like, I did not even think that was possible. I had never looked at myself as winning on the Epson tour. It felt it felt like such a distant goal for me, or distant reality for me. But once I won, I'm like, okay, God, this is what you had in store. I'm good. And so, played the rest of the season, fell one shot shy of earning my LPGA status at Q Series that following year. But that was, I mean, it was difficult, but this year we start the season with brand new eyes. I have this wonderful relationship with Black Desert Resort. They're supporting my golf. I acquired another sponsor, Reliance Matrix, who has been absolutely incredible to me. And I got married. I'm in my favorite place in the world that I've ever lived in, St. George, Utah here. And built my team around me, from the trainer and the chiropractor and the whole bit. And so started this year and won another tournament and played in my first US Women's Open. And it has been such a full year of life. I'm like, if I quit golf, I would never have moved to Utah. I wouldn't have met the people here that I know. I would never have been part of this PGA Tour production or the LPGA production next season here at Black Desert. And so I'm like, there was so much that God intended for my life. And it just required me to say yes to him, to say yes to an opportunity that I had no idea I had no idea how to go about. Yeah, so here we are. It was a crazy 22, but the years that followed were just unmatched. And I'm so glad that I said yes to coming back to golf in 2023.
Guys, she decided it was her turn time and time and time again. And I'm so unbelievably grateful. So 2025,
Yes.
fingers crossed, you will be on tour. I want everyone right now, even whether you do not know golf or not, I want you to go follow Savannah. She's a great follow, whether you're faith-based or not. You possibly will be just following her because it's so fun to watch, be cheering you on so big. When is tour school again? It's always the first week of December.
Yeah, first week of December.
Is it still hosted at LPGA International in Daytona?
No, it's in
way.
the RTJ Trail in Mobile, Alabama. So
really, they switched it up. Well, there you go.
Falls Magnolia Grove. Yeah, it's a great place. Super cool, super awesome venue. So I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Well, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad. I'm so excited to always watch your career. It's been so much fun. Congratulations on getting married. We need more photos of your husband on the gram. I even had to dig to try to find it. Girl, what's happening here?
So he is not on social media. He's like, nope, my life is fine without it, Sab. I'm like, but we can just get you on Instagram. He goes, nope, my life is fine without it. I'm like,
I love that.
Yeah, so we haven't had our wedding yet, so that is why there are no photos, because it hasn't happened. We are legally wed, and our wedding is in January. So January 11th, 111, and there will be plenty of photos of him after that.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. You guys, please go follow her. Give everyone your Instagram again and tell where they can follow you. And prayers for an amazing 25 on the LPGA Tour.
Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate that. Yeah, just the Instagram is Savannah Vilaubi, one word. The last name's kind of funky, but I'm sure it'll be typed somewhere on here. So
it will be
2025.
Thanks, girl. I really appreciate you. Good luck with everything. You guys, don't ever forget, you have the power to decide it's your turn, and listen to that still small voice. Thanks, Savannah.
Thanks.